All right, welcome to IT240. I'm Professor Thomas. I go by Professor Thomas. And tonight I'm going to go over the agenda here for IT240 Linux administration or Linux systems administration. And the agenda is just pretty basic, easy night for us tonight. We're going to be in and out. We will just kind of review the materials, mainly things that are inside of Canvas. I'll kind of give you some of the inside scoop, the inside knowledge on how the class is going to be laid out. I'm still developing. It's going to be a continuous development process. Obviously, I'll put things out a week or two in advance, but you may see tons of things in there ahead, but those haven't been officially assigned, and they may be omitted or adjusted. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we review the materials, and then we will get into the syllabus. In fact, we'll probably just do the syllabus first because that's going to be quick. We'll just gloss over the syllabus, get into some review of the materials, and then also the preview of um, next week's materials. And that's kind of how it will flow on Tuesday evenings when we come together at 7 p.m. And I would suggest, I would more or less think that it will turn out to be about an hour is what I would suspect. It would be about an hour worth of time. And then that'll be it. And then the rest of the week, we'll just be communicating virtually if necessary. But I think this pathway will work for everybody, as long as everyone's clear on what to do and whatnot. So I will pull up the syllabus. Or any questions before we get going? All right, so I'm going to pull up the syllabus, and that has been located in placed in the files section. So if I go down here, I've updated this recently, but it's pretty much more or less the same thing. Maybe slightly different than the one that school has, but it's all pretty much essentially the same thing. And I'm just going to gloss over this. I mean, you guys all have access to this, so I'm not going to spend a great deal of time. It sounds a lot scarier in actuality, but in actuality, I'm not as strict as what the syllabus says. A lot of this was just carried over. But the office hours are not really set in stone. It's really the key is that it is appointment by only, and it's not necessarily on these 2 days. It could be any day, any one of the 7 days, primarily in the afternoons. And it will be by appointment only, and it will be through Zoom, through our Zoom link. And I will say that one of the best ways to contact me is through Canvas, and versus through email, because if you contact me through Canvas, it also sends me an email. And so I get it in two places. I'm probably more likely going to respond a lot faster. Also, I have the Canvas app, so I'm always kind of on Canvas and monitoring that. The required materials. Now we do have several books that have been assigned, but I'm going to show you guys the work around that on that, where you don't actually go out and purchase anything. So hopefully no one has done that, because you may not have to. But the main thing is access to a computer, and that's pretty obvious that to have that. So you don't have to build a new computer or anything like that. um, it'd be cool if you did, but no, that's unnecessary. Just any access to a computer, and you probably could even get through with just even going to a computer lab at the school. I mean, you'll still be able to probably get through. But obviously, most of you guys, I'm sure, have your own computer. And here it says the final design from this class may or may not be a CompTIA industry exam. So it will not be a CompTIA industry exam. It will just be maybe some multiple choice type of question, where I give you like 20 to 30 questions, and that'll be that. It's not going to be all this intense. Students, you're pretty much will be on your own if you want to take the certification test. But we're going to kind of follow the same type of curriculum as if we were taking that certification exam. And some of the objectives and things like that, like this course will be modeled after the CompTIA Linux Plus examination, because there's a few different industry examiners out there, but the CompTIA one is the one that we'll be following this time around, which was a slight change from years past. There were the other exams like the Linux Essential exam, but we're moving away from that. In fact, I'm also planning on, this is kind of an older. Uh, I'm actually planning on creating my own certification program as well. And so students may earn a certificate from me after successfully completing this course. It's not set up now, and I mean maybe I could try to get it going, but I think in the future I'm going to look into it won't replace the CompTIA exam. It's just in addition to the other certification exams that are more recognizable. But this would be more of a certificate of completion based on the class and the policies and the standards that I've set forth for this class. That there's something that you could add to your list of accommodations and things like that. So I'm definitely looking into that, and I don't see why I can't do something like this. But and then the grades will be kind of on a point system. So just everything together, all added up, will be a percentage, and then from there we will convert the percentage into a letter grade. Um, yeah, I'm going to be fully transparent here. I used the material that other instructors have used, and um, the truth is this does come from another instructors, but to me, I'm probably going to modify this. I've never seen a 95% or anything close to 96% be an A minus. So I will adjust that. The others seem somewhat reasonable, but I will adjust this. I believe it should be um, it actually should be uh, less than 93%. So 93% is that critical number. And if you were to get a 93%, it should be a solid A, is the way it will be. All right, let's keep going. And I can adjust that as well. Don't worry about that. And that's what I've done for all of my classes. Now, this one does say, let me just duplicate this for a second. This does say the 2024, but it should be the 2023. So for some reason, yeah, that's really odd how um, I can just, I'll pull up the other one as well. So, okay, slight difference. And so anyway, here the next thing is no late work will be accepted. That's not necessarily true. You can turn in the work after the due date, and there wouldn't be any penalty or anything. But I don't encourage you to do this because this could delay you, and you can get behind and things of that sort. And everything will be online. This is an online class, and so everything, all the assignments will be inside of Canvas. And um, I will say right now there's a lot of assignments in there, and it looks like those are all the assignments that we're going to be doing, but they haven't been officially assigned. And until you see a due date, on the assignment, that's when you'll know that it is officially assigned and it will be on the calendar with the due date. And the way it will work is the work will be due Tuesday night. So since we meet Tuesday, we're gonna have just, you know, 3 or 4 assignments, or 2 to 3 or 4 assignments, um, 1 through 4 different assignments potentially for the week, and it'll be due Tuesday night. So, and we'll look at that. And it would be great to be present here in class as much as possible, being active and cooperative, and it does make a huge difference. So I like this. All this is really good language. Submitting the work, we'll talk about that, asking questions, and you could submit questions in so many different ways through Canvas, through the Zoom chat, and all of this, and or just unmute and speak. Um, all of that would be great. Academic dishonesty, plagiarism, things like this. Yeah. Yeah. If any event where there is a source or you've created something and there's a source, you just have to add the source. Like even if there is a piece on coding or whatnot, but I don't necessarily think this is a huge ordeal. I know a lot of syllabus are having a in artificial intelligence kind of spiel or policy. And this one, it's not in this one, it's in the online one, but um, I don't, I'm not concerned about AI or the chat bot at all. In fact, I think that you should definitely use it as an aid if and when you need to. So if you have access to that, I encourage you to get access on it and to utilize it as best you can. Because I think for educational purposes, it's pretty helpful. And it kind of takes a lot of the heavy lifting out. And again, people don't know what they don't know, right? So if you know how to use it and you know what to ask it and help, I think it can ultimately help you in the long run. So we're not too concerned about that at all. Um, And then that's pretty much it for the syllabus. Any questions so far about the syllabus or anything like that that I've just gone over? Okay. So then that's going to bring us to the next thing, and um, so the next thing here is our Canvas page, and I'll just walk us through this. So um, obviously everything is done on a weekly basis, so that's kind of how the class is set up. And there again, like I said, there'll be weekly assignments. Now, the first thing for week 1, there's the discussion post, and there have been students that have already done this, and it's been great. I've been reading everybody's who have already posted, and it's what you post in here. Other students should be able to read. Um, it's kind of an introduction, and it's part of the attendance. And so the first week's attendance is somewhat important. And so that is due this Friday. So if anyone hasn't engaged or if they didn't sign in the Canvas, they could very well end up being dropped or have to submit their name as a no-show. Especially if I haven't heard from them through email or anything like that. So, but besides that, the other 2 assignments will be uh, due Tuesday night. So we get a week to set up the Linux lab and another week to read chapter 1, to go through chapter 1. And so here's our links, um, our Zoom link, the Linux Journey link, which sometimes I do assign some assignments to the Linux Journey, and then also the Ghost Terminal. I'll demonstrate that soon. But for the most part, the majority of our resources are in the Files section. So if you click on Files section, There's resources available to you. Like if you click on ebooks, for example, um, the these are the ebooks that I've given out of like less than half of the ones that I ultimately want to share out, but there's a good number right now. I don't want anybody to get overwhelmed. And the one book that I mentioned that um, you should you should read the first chapter in a week is in here. It's one of them. I think it's the second one. And this is the new exam that is still available right now. So this book is related to the current exams. So this is really a good resource for you. This is very valuable, the ebook. If I were you, I would download all of this stuff and put into a folder. This is one of my favorites, the Root Linux. Some of these books are very valuable, and we probably will be referencing some of them, and then there'll be more added. And as the weeks go on, we'll be touching on different aspects and different parts of the books that we like. Yeah. And there's a question coming in on I think it's the Bringston book. Oh, okay. This could be it. Um, yeah, so maybe that's different from this one. Um, but yeah, just take a look. It'll match it once you click on it. These are huge files. And again, I would simply download it, and it should be okay. And even some of these, actually, this book right here is actually pretty good as well. But it's part of the 004 test, which is no longer around, but it's still pretty relevant and still somewhat new. But yeah, these are the majority of the hidden resources that I have. There's an ISO files folder, and in here is the ISO file for the CentOS virtual machine. There was a project about a virtual machine setting up a CentOS lab, and this would be the file. This is 1 gig. It's huge, but this would be the file to set it up as. You could use this file, or you could just download your own, but this one works. It's a minimal install. And if you were to use this file, you could essentially get your own kind of CentOS operating system, which is under the umbrella of a Linux uh, system. And uh, and then some code. If we refer to different codes, I will drop them in here if and when we talk about coding. We don't do much coding. We probably will do a little bit of bash scripting, also a little bit of Python, maybe even a little bit of Perl. Um, I think it's just good to embrace everything. Embrace as much as you can. I mean, we can't have any barriers, even if it's your first time being exposed to it. We have to jump right in. We have to be fearless, and we have to make mistakes, right? That's all a part of the whole learning paradigm. And especially when it comes to tech, we have to learn by jumping in and just trying to do it, and then enhancing things. Um, And so there was a question that just came in. I think Evan just said, will the assignments be graded off of the CentOS? And if I do assign that assignment, which is basically just set up a CentOS virtual machine and do some Linux commands, um, it will be graded, yes. But again, I might not. It really depends on next week. Um, but yes, in fact, that's what we're going to get into as well. We'll get into the next week's assignment, which is about setting up your Linux lab. So let me just kind of preview this for a second, and I'll show you my setups. So here it is. So this is a really big project here because um, your Linux lab is the thing that's going to save you a lot of money. Okay, the majority, like most instructors who teach this class, are tied into a Linux lab, and I'm not. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But if you want to spend 100 and something dollars on a lab that you can only access in a couple of months, um, that's one way to do the class. But for me, I, in the spirit of Linux being free and open source, I wanted to try to keep this class as free and open source as possible. Um, and so that's why the first thing we're going to do is set up a Linux lab. And so you will use your own lab as you fit, as you wish, and you will carry out your assignments in a Linux lab. And so we'll talk about how to do that. So, and I'll share with you, and I'll show you some of my labs that I have set up, just so you can get an idea of how you would go about doing it. And um, the number one, so first it would be choose your platform, and that really depends on your computer setup. Depending on the type of computer that you have, that can kind of dictate um, the platform that you want to have your own lab set up under. And then the next decision is, well, what type of distribution? Now, there are really two main ones that I would encourage everybody to consider, and that would be Ubuntu or Kali Linux. Now, if you do the CentOS, then that means that you automatically get credit for that assignment if we do that assignment, which would be posted in the next week or two. But there are other ones as well. There's the Fedora, the Debian, the Arch Linux, and probably a whole bunch more than that. There's even an operating system called Parrot. Um, and then the environment, right? Are you going to use like a virtual box, hypervisor, a WSL? And how will that go? And then you go on from there, right? And what, how much memory do you have? How much space do you have? So everybody's setup is different. And I know some people might be on laptops, some people might be on desktops. And again, some people could be at the library using um, the a computer lab at EFCC. You wouldn't be wrong for doing that. You should be able to handle this class under any circumstance that you have, as long as you have a computer. There has to be a way. And if we run into some issues, let's say you've tried and tried and tried, and a week comes around and your system isn't fully functional, you're not. That's not gonna hurt you. We'll just troubleshoot and figure something out for you, something that will work for you. Um, Joseph said, I've loaded WSL and Ubuntu comes with it. You got that right. In fact, that's one of my favorite actual Linux distributions right there. My Linux setup, my Linux lab, I should say. What my favorite lab is WSL. And so let me show, I'm going to show uh, you guys, I'm going to spend some time and just kind of show you my setup and my configurations. And maybe we could talk a little bit about what you guys have under the hood, what type of architect you guys running, and what kind of setup you have. But Joseph, if you already have WSL, then you will get the full credit for this assignment. And you could probably just use that with your Linux. Was that your expectation? Were you planning on using
Well,
your?
I just downloaded it yesterday from reading this.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it smooth, right? Do you like it?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I remember when Microsoft announced it, and it was game changer because then you didn't have to, you could do so much more. And so what I'll do is show you, and I'll show you in order of least to best, in my own opinion. But my first setup is under it's called VMware. No, actually, it's a VM player. Let me get that started for you. So my VMware workstation player, this is something that I use. Now the rival of this, because you know how it is, most uh most big companies will have a rival. The rival to this, I think, is called the virtual box, which more people might be familiar with. So it's either you're either a virtual box person or a VMware person. I happen to use VMware. I mean, it's nothing bad about the virtual box. I think actually virtual box might even be more popular than VMware. But once you get that downloaded, you're now able to create a virtual machine. And I've just before class started, I've loaded in the CentOS, and this is the one from the file section inside of Canvas. So I've already set it up, and I clicked on the steps and allocated certain amounts of memory. I would click on this and start it up. So I double click. Um, Now on this screen, it might be pretty small, so I'm going to shift over to another screen, and let's see if I can modify my screen here. One second. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen. And this is it. This is what the operating system looks like. Linux is nothing more than a terminal. It's the black screen. It's kind of like a stereotypical hacker type of platform. And so we have to be comfortable in operating in the bash in the terminal. And so that's kind of what it looks like. And if I sign in as the root user, put in my password, I'm in. So this is CentOS. It's the CentOS operating system. I could go to the root directory and list it out. And there it is. This is my computer. This is kind of the setup, the files directory and system and all that. And we'll get into that soon. But as you can see, um, this works. This is the CentOS operating system, and this is my virtual lab. So I can do the exercises with this machine. I can learn about Linux all right here. So that is that. I will demonstrate another one here. What I'll do next is I'll show you um, my WSL. And this one has the kernel attached to it. It's running. Let's see here. Let me pull up. Share again. Yeah, here it is. Let's make this a little bigger. So there it is. I can go to the root directory, list all the files out. I can see what's here, what's under here. I actually use this quite a bit. Um, so it's, in fact, I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Um, so this is very practical. This is called the WSLs. So it's the Windows subsystem for Linux. And so you can have Linux inside of Windows, which is pretty cool. And it's very practical. You can do all kinds of things with this. I normally use this for logging into the virtual machines that I might have in AWS. So AWS is a cloud system, right? Amazon's web services, and um, you can get your own virtual machine through having a cloud. You have to pay for it. They do have some, if it's small enough, it qualifies for the free tier. And it's still, they're still going to charge you though, right? It's still going to be about $4 or $5 a month. But you will have a machine that's always on, that's always running, and it could potentially be like a web server or other things like that. The problem with AWS is logging in. Um, and so the best way to log on is if you have your own system, your own kind of lab, you can log into your virtual machine. And so now you're you're able to control your virtual machine. Whereas with the Google Cloud, you don't have to do that. They have a wonderful terminal for you to log into your your machines, your instances, or whatever they want to call them. But for AWS, they expect you to sign on to it kind of on your own, and it makes sense to do that. So that's one of the main reasons why I have that. I'll show you another one that I have. Let's see if, oh, let me pull it up again. Hold on. Oops, I'm showing this. Um, so the other one that I have is, and I think you guys will probably like this one. This is the Kali Linux. So there's a WSL for Kali Linux, and this is it. And this machine is fast. It's powerful. It's fast. It's a minimum install. It doesn't have the full Kali Linux setup, but I could easily download it on there. It's just a matter of memory if I wanted to. And so here I will, let's see here. Let me see if I can get the full window. Wow, there it is. 1 second. I'll just switch back then, since this is a, so here's my setup. So so there's a way to, if you have your Kali Linux machine, or even the Linux, even the Ubuntu one, you can get it to display its desktop. And so I just did this, I updated it with the new Kali Linux kind of setup, and this is kind of cool. Traditionally, it doesn't look anything like this, but this setup works. And if I click on the terminal, I'm inside. I, I have everything that I had on my other machine. I can now carry out a bunch of Linux commands and see what the setup of my machine, things like that. So we have, um, and again, this machine is extremely fast, extremely fast. Get out of here, and I could probably, let's see, applications. And again, inside applications, tons of other things that I can do. All right. So I've showed you three already. Two WSLs, subsystems for Linux. Um, the first one was the virtual machine, the VMware workstation. So someone you can, that one I would picture most people doing that, either getting VirtualBox or um, doing VMware. But if you if you have the virtualization enabled, you can potentially download WSL. All right, let me close this out. And I'm going to show a couple more. These are The next ones I'll show you is a little bit more, get out of here. Let's see here. Shut this down. Okay, so the next one to do the next one that I'm gonna do, which is the hypervisor, I'm gonna show you the Hyper-V. Um, your your computer has to you have to have a certain type of architect. So that's what we're gonna get into. I'll show you that really quick. So under the hood on my system, if I go to my system, the addition of okay, I mean I only have the Ryzen 9. I think this chip is getting pretty old now. But it has 24 threads. Um, but this is what I've come here for. If you could see, I have Windows 10 Pro. And so you need to know which type of edition of Windows you have. Um, now I think it was Joseph who said he has WSL. I'm curious though, do you have Windows Pro?
No, I do not have Windows Home Edition.
Oh, so you were able, okay, so yeah, for WSL, I think you could, but for the next thing I'm gonna do, I think it's specific to Pro. And there's the home edition, then there's the educational, and then there's Pro. And I think I don't know if the educational can do it the next pull up the hypervisors, but I'll demonstrate that real fast. So I have the hypervisor manager here. And basically, it's kind of like your VirtualBox or VMware, but it's inside of Windows 10. And I have two different systems in here. These are the ISO files that we built. So I built the virtual machine, and um, and these are devices that I use quite regularly, like as like a second computer or whatnot. So I'll demonstrate the Parrot, and this is the KDE version of Parrot, and I also have an older version of Kali, so I probably had for a couple of years. And I just use this one for certain projects that we could be working on and things like that. But both of these would be considered a lab. Um, and so I'll start over here. Let's switch my screen again because it's for some reason it okay. So it's starting now. All right, let's see. Is it loading up? And surprisingly, these don't take all that much memory. Um, but again, it really just kind of depends on the setup that you have. If you guys are on desktop, encourage you to add more memory to your computer because you never know um, if and when you're going to need more memory. It's pretty valuable. Okay, that one is taking it's a little slower and it's moving very slow right now. Merge process at 9%. I'll spin up the Kali one as well. In the meantime. Okay, oh man. So Parrot is Kali Linux's rival. And this is it's more for cybersecurity, red team, blue team, ethical hacking. And this thing is fully set up. There is an overlap between what the two systems have in common. But I don't know. I mean, both of them are really, really good and fun to use, but I'll give you an example. So first, if I were to click onto the console, there's my terminal for the the Linux terminal. I can do all of the activities and use the Linux through here. So this would be one type of lab. But aside from this, to actually have this setup, man, the pen testing tools, like if we click on pen testing, everything, everything you could imagine, information gathering, vulnerability analysis, web analysis, exploitation, post-exploitation, password attacks, wireless attack. I mean, reverse engineering and whatnot, digital forensics, and automotive type of hacking, which is it's kind of hilarious how this machine is already kind of souped up, and this download that I have is fully set up with all the tools and whatnot, and then you can always add more to it as you need to, um but again, you can carry out all kinds of things here. The internet and everything is pretty quick. You pull up Firefox or whatever, whatever I need to pull up. It's not too bad. It's a nice little backup. Uh, and I will exit out of this. Let's see. Shut down. Shut down. And uh, shut down. And yeah, we have the Kali right here. Here's the one. This is probably the oldest one that I have. Let me see if I can even. Okay, it took it. Yeah, this one right here, this will do it. You click on the terminal and there it is. Actually, it's kind of big. It's better. And you can run all kinds of commands and things like that you need to do. Move around the file system and putting commands up. This is what we'll be learning more about. This is your Linux setup inside here. So you can control the entire machine and all the applications from this terminal. And so that's kind of the setup. But the last setup that I'll show you, this was one of my favorites, but um, shut this one down. The very last setup that I'll show is becoming my favorite. Let me see here. And it's called the Ghost Terminal. And so this could potentially be your lab as well. And so if you decide to use this, if you click on the website, there it is. And I just recently built this over the weekend, and it should be able to sustain everybody, all 19 students, and including myself, all at the same time. This is a Linux distribution. It's fully set up. It spawns you into a workspace directory, but it's if I were to go back one step into the file system, change directory, and basically change directory with the slash is going to put me at the root directory, and all I have to do now is list the contents out with ls, and this will show that this is the root directory. There's nothing further back than this. This is where everything is. And the workspace folder, as you can see in the bottom right, is where we were started from. which is an empty directory, but from there you can build things and do work inside of there. And I'll hit a clear. So it automatically gives you root access to this. So if you click who am I, if you the command who am I, you're the root. The host name is nothing more than the ID. It's not the actual computer, it's the ID of the computer that you're using. The host name you won't be able to see on this end. Now this project is accepting donations. Now when you clear it out, if you hit exit, you're done. You can close your browser and open it again, or maybe even a reload could also spawn you a new computer with a different ID. But if you scroll to the bottom, you can see the about page. It gives information about the Ghost Terminal, the history of Linux, careers, getting certified through Linux, why one would go about doing that. I remember someone said in their own introduction how they interested in taking the Linux Plus exam eventually. And then the donations, if you're inclined to donate, $5 or upwards of $10. I wouldn't do any a $5 donation one time that will keep the Ghost Shell running for the next couple of years. So I'm gonna keep it running and maintain it on do some updates probably Friday. I'll let you know if anyone happens to be working on this terminal. I'll let you know when I'll be doing some updates and adding certain features. Like I've added Python. So this has Python. Actually, wait, I should do Python 3. There's Python. It also has the Perl interpreter and things like that. And it does have a text editor. I'll show you the text editor that it has. I was going to get the Nano text editor, and I probably will eventually bring it, but it has the Vim text editor. Kind of a small window, but it's still there. And so you could use this to write scripts and write words, and I could create documents and write them in here. But it is also possible though to work without a text editor. And so that's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Yeah, so it's possible to edit things, edit documents, and all with maybe like the echo statement. And we'll talk more about that when we get into commands and stuff like that. But we're not, that's more of a next week's type of stuff when we start talking about commands and things like that. But there's a way to create files without a text editor just from the terminal, edit them from the terminal, and execute them just from the terminal. And so that's when our skills are really going to sharpen, when we start doing things like that and moving the files from one directory to a next and copying them, changing the names around. And like if I were to just right now, if I do touch hi.txt, that creates a file. And to see the type of permissions that file has, it talks about this file, when it was created, the amount of space that it occupies. Obviously, the file has nothing inside of it, so there's no bytes. And then the read-write permissions. And sometimes if we need our file to be executable, we have to modify the permissions and things like this. And those are some of the things that we'll be doing quite a bit of. So for students who are maybe working in the library or working away from your own computer, you could pull up this terminal from your cell phone or from any public place. It has the HTTPS, and the certificate is still valid. Oh, wait a minute, please. The certificate is valid. Issued on. Yeah, it's good. So there you have it. I'm going to get back to our screen here. So now we have, all right, I'll show the time. You have options on how to go about doing this. Now, one other thing I should say. So for chapter 1 in this book, um, when you go into, let me pull it up. The chapter 1 isn't too bad. It's like less than 20 pages, but the exam part is very long. Um, it's just a practice exam. It's not going to be graded or anything like that. But what I'm going to do when we come back next Tuesday is just I'm going to just do some pop questions on those, and I'll present the questions to you guys, and it'll be kind of a free for all. Whoever wants to speak up and answer it, or if they know it, they'll answer it. And that's how the entire class will get the point. So if I pull up that book, and let me see, I think it's this one. Oh no, this is going to be, it's such a big download that here, let me see. I have it in another folder, I believe, anyway. Um, I think is this it? This could very well be it. Let me make sure. Oh no, no, it's this one. It's the Ted Jordan one. So there's two that look very similar. And let me just make sure that it's the right one, because they're very, I mean, this says Linux Plus Study Guide, and this one says Linux Plus Exam Guide, but it's the all-in-one second edition, and it's by Ted Jordan and Sandor. And the first, yeah. So this will be the one that I was referring to. You would read through this, talk about the kernel, which is really interesting, what the kernel is. And then a few commands, the history command, the who I am command, the cat, echo, more, those basic commands. And then there's kind of like you keep going, you get to on 18, you get to some of the questions. And this is more of a pre-assessment. And so it's low stakes. You would just, I think it'd be good to just go through this. It sharpens you. There's a bunch of questions though. It's almost a bit too much. You keep going through, it goes all the way up to like, let's see, no, it says it go up to 90. Goes over the answers, and then after that, it talks about the solutions of each one. So next week, Tuesday, out of the 90 questions, I'm going to show 5 of them, 5 random questions from the 90. And we're going to see if we can get all 5 of them correct. There's low stakes, low stakes. And then we'll continue on from there. And later this week, I promise I will begin to add more assignments in. But right now, we have week 1 is done. Week 2 will be modified. So for all you speedy guys that's jumping ahead, these may be gone. So I'm gonna, once they have the due date, then it's officially assigned. If it doesn't have a due date, you don't have to do it. Okay, and that's the rule of thumb. Right here in the first week, they all have a due date. They all need to be done. These will be modified. So on and so forth. But I just have to clean them up, and some of it is poorly written, and some of it is just too tedious. Too tedious. I would use the chat bot if I were you for some of them, unless you want to pull your hair out. But that's going to do it for tonight, man. I think we've reached our hour. Now I will take any questions. I will also look into the chat, and I will stop recording at this time as well.